The history of building from a labor perspective. Who owns the history of building? Is it mathematicians, engineers, and Royal Society professionals from the 19th century? Do scholars and academics have a claim to the history of building culture? The professional institutions have been with us less than 200 years. Before their introduction, the culture and history of building was mostly by laborers, for laborers. Most architects and philosophers want to start this prompt by asking, where does medieval architecture come from? I have a wild proposal. You made up the whole framework. In the material world, there's no such thing as architecture. There are building methods, materials, and the descriptive geometry used to create forms or intersect surfaces, and the human effort involved. Architecture is the application of ideology about building after the fact, usually by those not involved in the practice of labor. Put another way, architecture is fashion. Building culture is garment construction. To that end, the specifier and the speculative classes fail themselves, they have failed their brothers as an institution and practice. Left unchecked, they will continue to make busy work for their class, inventing another debate on the origins of form that remind us of the bozos looking for dark matter. They will found whole schools on ways to describe cutting up a cone or developing a new shape, but never lay a single brick or truly put a durable human roof over generations. Where's the practice? Arguing over fashion, teaching people to think it's okay to behave this way, digging in even harder in historicism on the other end of the pool. Practice is lost as it ever was. We start our timeline in the location of modern Prague, 500 BC. Celtic boy scribing floor, showing the development of a cone. They have mass walls and timber frame roofs, a fully developed, recognizable canon of human scale home architecture, similar to China and the Levant. Many cultures did it. Nobody did it like the boys. The speculative masons on Wet Island will come to fetishize this building culture, but improperly attribute their achievements and origins to Greek and Egyptian traditions, even though the writers of the time differentiate them as not Sicilians, not Greek. They're othered by the writers of their time. They're noted to build villages and fortifications by Caesar himself. Where architecture comes from, the myth of the Dark Ages started in the 19th century to sell class and art. The supposed Dark Ages, 700 years of brick and stone, hot mix mortars, timber joinery. It's called the Dark Ages because they could only get brown filters for the video cameras back then, and they could only find really dirty extras. Bunch of 19th century weirdos in an institution said so. But that's not really the case. What we really have is forms of all imaginable construction, both regional and imperial. All mass wall or timber frame, all based on this continental corpus of structural integrity in pursuit of interior comfort. Architects from Enlightenment and Victorian eras focus on the church's high examples of cultural expression, and we love them, they're beautiful. All of them are exploiting similar geometric tricks to generate impressive forms. This is where the field's been lost for 200 years, myth-making, hyper-analyzing the origins of something that is simply a rule of triangles or circles, exploited well by craft laborers. What about the regular folk on the continent? And most of the population didn't live in cathedrals or think of their buildings and labor in the same way a 19th century intellectual would. The humans who live within these structures have cherished words for comfort and warmth. In the Indo-European language, the root ba means we're sick of living in caves and real happy these folks showed up. They value textiles, human effort to create comfort. Their homes were warm and dry. They have many words to describe the creators of comfortable places. Maestro is the Latin root, tekton in Greek. People of the ancient times described the laborers who provided comfort and warmth from their own culture and language as masters and builders. There was nothing dark about this time, if the people are to believe by their own words. They were obsessed with being Roman, no matter where they were. And so they would favor Roman sources in their libraries, often throwing out their own cultural relics and periodicals. We see this bias running all the way through the cultural curation, right up to the Reformation. Romans who? They used the building cultures of their enslaved people. They are impressive for scale and administration, but we had concrete of the same chemistry in Turkey and China. The forms are all stolen from Greeks. We know about the Greeks. They were really into making their big stone blocks look like a boob if you squint real hard and the sun is just right. Nasty Greeks. Alright, we're going to spring forward. Aachen, 800 AD. This is the stadium glam rock era for crafts and building history. The founding of coppersmiths for tailoring and joinery, glass-making studies in Cologne, and the patronage of Charlemagne and others in the region. Crafts in the building arts become established institutions within the monasteries. Palace at Aachen becomes Jay Leno's garage of medieval Europe. Oh, Charles. Bless his little king heart. He loved him some workers and sciences and all the cool things they made. I think he would have been like a Joe Rogan style guy today. Kind of dumb, loyal like an inbred dog, surrounding himself with cool wizards and smart guys. You do, unfortunately, kind of have to hand it to him for the patronage to the building arts. That's as far as we're going to go with old Charles. 16th century, Delorme, Europe's father of master builders, a retired stonecutter in his sundown years, produces the first books of architecture for the modern world. His declarations made builders, architects, and mathematicians mad for 400 years. Shout out to a master poster and troll. He taught us how to make a stone ceiling look like a smashed trumpet with circles and witty math. Excuse me. 16th century through the 17th century, the Copagnon is made a French military secret. The march of imperial power shakes the world. On Wet Island, laws are passed to stop unions of laborers forming. Machine breakers fight back. Police are aroused to stop laborers' revolts. We're going to take a quick rewind oh, to the 15th century to look at the dome in Florence. Brunelleschi, the guy, he was a master, but not because of the Renaissance. It's claimed he went to Rome to study the masters of antiquity. What he actually did was humbled himself to a bunch of seasoned military carpenters and his laborers, bricklayers. He stood on the scaffold with them for every step of the dome. He produced all the stereotomy and programming. Akin to Toyota or Paul Akers, Bruno designed the work around the worker. He put himself in their shoes for every step. This is why the dome was completed in his lifetime. It must have been. He came to the junket with science, power, and glory. Quick note on the juicy red food that the Italians would be known for. Within a century, it will arrive to the continent to much rejoicing by spaghetti chefs. And finally, we arrive at Wet Island, 1660. English merchants and striver-class Whigs established mystery guilds in the model of the Compagnon because they're quite jealous of the freedom and status that is afforded to the building guilds on the continent. This is the formation of the Freemasons. Earliest written record 1660, and it is all speculative members of the middle class. They were not practicing Masons. They will come to own pickleball courts and hamburger restaurants in America someday. Real uncut Calvinist shit. 18th century, we're cooking now. The professional class in civil engineering is beginning to be established at the end of this century. We have the American Revolution, mostly over timber rights. We have the French Revolution, labor. The Compagnon is made illegal, along with many other labor guilds, in a wave of populist reaction after the French Revolution. And we see the birth of the corporation, the specifier as a class. 19th century, newly minted professional class dismantles craft practices, invents myths about history, fully establishes its authority to speak on building and labor. Industrial practice and unchecked extraction capitalism keep the economy line proofs coming up green. At the end of the 19th century, everything is crashing. All the prophets are made liars. Lofty dreams of the charismatics and the lumpen alike cut up for tenements. Paper for balance sheets and newspapers ordered on speculation for the next year. The world feels the grip of apocalypse in many cultures. Then oil is plumbed. 20th century, Dark Ages. We really don't know what happened. If someone with a degree could tell us, we would thank you for that.